Hey everyone, welcome back. In this Postman tutorial, we are going to discuss about mocking within Postman and what is the relevance or why do we need mock servers in our software development lifecycle. Now, mocking or mock servers is something, as the name suggests, you have a real server, okay, which provides some service, right? Now, if real server is not available or the web service that gives or provides certain details to the consumer is not available, that's where mock server setup is being done. Okay, now I'll give you a detailed example of why mock servers and why mock APIs are required so that you can easily be able to correlate, and then in the next video I'll explain you how you can create mock services into Postman. So first example, right? So first example, very simple one. Say for example, you are working as a software developer, right? So in the development where mock services are really helpful. So for example, so this is the UI, right? So developer is developing the UI. Okay, now there will be few people basically in the development team who will be developing the UI, and then user interface will then interact with the web service, right? Services in order to get whatever details are required, right? Now say for example, this is the login page. Okay, so this is the username field and the password field. Okay, so this is the password, and then there is a button login. All right, now this page is ready. Okay, the UI design is ready, everything is ready. Okay, now what this UI developer they want to test is that are all the details that need to be handled within the UI are working properly or not, right? Now because this UI will need a communication or need a service to the backend server, right? So for example, this needs to be, if a valid user is there, it needs to be authenticated, right? So there'll be, like a backend server which will actually provide that particular service, right? So bidirectional communication here. So basically, or I'll just say, so there will be a request and then a response. Now say for example, the valid username, valid password is being sent from the UI. Okay, then in that particular case, user should get redirected to the dashboard page, right? To the dashboard page. Now how will this particular user of this particular developer who is developing the UI will be able to test all of this until this whole integration is available, right? And we know that in software development life cycle, everything, availability of every particular service or server takes time, right? It might not be the case that the speed with which the UI development will get completed, in that same speed or same cadence, the authentication, the server and everything will be up and running and the services are available for the UI developer to integrate, right? So for example, you are developing REST services or the other team is developing REST services for handling authentication, right? So those service needs to be integrated in the UI. Only then this whole flow of authentication will be available, right? But in case this is not ready yet, so what can this UI developer do in order to test certain scenarios? For example, if valid username and password is provided, he or she wants to test that the dashboard page is, the user gets redirected to the dashboard page based on the response received. If invalid username is provided, then the error message should be displayed, right? If invalid password is provided, an error message is displayed, right? So any of those scenarios, how can a user test and see that the layout of those error message and everything is perfectly fine on this UI? So in that particular case, mock services become very, very important because this real service is no more available. It's still in development. Okay, so it's still in development, right? And it might be available after 2 to 3 weeks, okay, depending on how the complexity is. So in that particular case, what the developers, the UI developers or even the testers, this is specific to the development, so I'll complete that and then I'll show you how the testers will be leveraging the mock services. So in this particular case, what the developer will do, they will spin up the quick mock services. Okay, so something, a quick service, when we say mock server, okay, so there will be a mock server. All right, we'll say mock server. What this server will do, so for example, here you are interacting with the real API. So in that particular case, the mock server will be up and running. Okay, and you can have, so that's where Postman comes in picture, right? So Postman provides the ability to create the mock services, right? So that runs and it will provide you the service and the response that you need in order to test something, right, for a particular scenario. For example, valid username and password is provided. You want to provide a success message. So there will be a service for that. Then for another scenario, you want to return a response which says invalid username and password. So you want to check the display of the message. So instead of the real server and real services that will take time, okay, that you see here. So all the real services, this particular bit will take time. So what the developers do is they set up the mock service, okay, and then based on the requirement, those mock services are being set up, which is really quick to set up, and then those are quickly integrated with this UI that is ready and test the edge cases, the scenarios and everything. Okay, so this is one example of why mock service or mock servers are important in the API testing. Now, if we move to the next example, this is for the development. Now for the testers, okay, so for the testers, how it becomes really important. Okay, so now as we understand that even though if you are a tester, right, so basically if we just talk about the same example, right, so the UI, okay, the login UI, right, now it has the username, it has the password, okay. Now, as a tester, you would like to test this particular whole page is working in terms of functionality. If you put the valid username and password and hit login, it should, redirect you to the dashboard page, okay, dashboard. And then on the dashboard, you want to see if there is any other downstream service that is required, then that could also be mocked. All right. And if those mock services are available, then you as a tester will be able to also go ahead and test the UI flow, at least the UI part, at least, right? The look and feel, the display of the error messages in case username password is incorrect, right? So all of those functionalities can be tested by the testers as well if real service is not available but the mock service is available. Now the other example is, for example, if you have ever worked in the banking space or just taking the bank example, right? Now, whenever, or e-commerce example, okay, so for example, in the e-commerce space, okay, so for example, you are visiting some shopping website, okay, you have logged in, okay, so you have logged in and then you are on the dashboard page, okay, and then here there are some products, okay, and you choose those products, add to the cart. All right, so you are on the cart page. From the cart page, you go to the payments, okay, so you go to the payment, right? Now in the e-commerce space, now because there is a lot of third-party payment gateways involved as well, right? So it is not feasible for the development organizations to set up a test environment for each of these payment possibilities, payment organizations that are there. So in that particular case, what the organizations will do is they'll set up a mock server, okay, a mock server, a mock service, which will accept whatever payment types you, for example, the PayPal, whatever response is received for the PayPal, any credit card, any type of credit card. If you put a test card number in the card and then say payment or proceed with the payment, then that will hit to the mock service, okay, and a success response or a failure response depending on what scenarios you have set up in the mock services, okay, in the mock services. So for each scenario, you will set a different, a mock service, right? Or a different scenario in the mock service, which will, if it is a success, it will return a success. If the payment has failed, credit card payment has failed, so you'll say, or you will set up that if this particular card number comes from the card, then return failure response, that card has been declined or something like that, right? But this is all mock. This is not real. Okay, this is not real in terms that it is not communicating to the real payments gateway. Okay, so that is where basically when this becomes really helpful, that you are communicating for each possible scenario. You are actually testing that, yes, I'm able to log in my e-commerce website, I'm able to add the items, then I'm able to proceed to the card, then I'm able to do the successful payment. If the real card will be sending or will be authorized and I'll get a success response from the real payment gateway, similar response I'll set up in the mock server and will check what is the behavior of the card, or after the payment what happens, am I able to get a success message, order has been order placed or something like that, right? So because the real order will be placed when the success response is received, right? It doesn't matter whether it's from the real payments gateway or from the mock server, right? So in the mock server, what you are doing is you are replicating the exact response that you will get from the real payment gateways when the card will be accepted, whether it's Master, Visa, PayPal, right? You will replicate exact responses depending on those scenarios. If it is success, it will go ahead and display order placed. If there is a card failure, you'll replicate that example as well, that card failed. Okay. Then in that case, what will be the message? What will be the response? You will set that up as well in the mock server. And that response will be displayed on the card page or the payments page that the card has been declined. And you will be able to check that this is how the UI will look like, the card page will look like, the error response will look like on this page in case the card is failed. But how you are doing it, you are not actually interacting with any of the real payment gateway, but you have mocked all of that because setting up the real payment gateway, right, and all of those possibilities is a real challenge and also very time consuming task, right? You can't replicate each and every real possible test environment, third-party test environment. So that is where mocking becomes really important. And when we say mock for the Postman context, it is more of a the API mocking, right? But then there is a service virtualization concept wherein not only the APIs, SOAP, REST, and other APIs that are available, you can mock, but you can also mock all other types of services. For example, messaging queues and all of those are possible as well. And they are more complex products around just service virtualization only, right? But in terms of Postman, because this is an API testing tool and a development tool, it's much more than that. But then still it supports the mocking and mock servers, which will be really helpful in the API development, software development and testing lifecycle overall. Okay. So that's brief about the mocking or mock servers in the API testing. Okay. And what is the relevance of it? In the next video, I'll explain how you can set up the mock servers within Postman and set up different examples or different scenarios in order to integrate and test within your software development. So that's all for this video. I hope it was helpful. Thank you very much for watching.